Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dave's Book Report. I know I've been telling you this for a long time that I'm going to do another episode to Dave's Book Report, but I've been very busy. And then number one, I've been very busy. Number two, I have to read a book in order for me to do Dave's Book Report. Right now, I'm in the middle of reading another psychological thriller by Stephen King. But in between that, I read kind of a smaller novel. I mean, it wouldn't be a teen novel. It actually would be a children's novel. I like reading in between something heavy to something small, something easy for the mind to take. And the book that I'm gonna talk to you guys about was as a kid I saw the film they made, which was an animated film, and they made a sequel to it. And then in the early 2000s, I think mid 2000s, they remade it into a live action film with Dakota Fanning and Julia Roberts. The book that I'm going to talk to you guys about today, it will be a quick one. It's Charlotte's Web. A lot of you guys know who the book Charlotte's Web. It's about a baby pig who is adopted by this young girl named Fern, and she starts to raise it as her own pet. Eventually, the pig starts to get big. Her father doesn't want to have him in his, land. He sells the pig to a farm, and she decides that she's going to go over there and visit the pig so he can have more room to visit the pig every day and, pretty much, keep up with him. But the pig doesn't really understand why he's getting sold, but he starts to experience a lot of lonely experiences, and the animals over there start telling him that eventually the owner is going to fatten him up and kill him for the holidays. But he sees Fern all the time, and he's very scared. But he can't relay the messages of how he feels to anybody because he's an animal. He looks like a pig. He cries and he's all alone until he can't make no best friends. Although the animals in the farm do talk to him, he still feels lonely. The closest he has to a friend is a rat named Templeton, who is really just his friend because he eats his leftover slops from the trough that the farmhand or the owner puts slops on. He cries and cries and cries until one night he hears the voice of an angel, pretty much, and it's a spider that speaks to him and tells him, "Do you really want a best friend? Do you want a friend?" And he says, "Yes, more than anything." And he's like, "I'll be your best friend." And it's Charlotte. Charlotte is a spider who lives on the sill of the barn. She has her own little home over there, and he starts to tell her that he's afraid that he's going to be killed off and he's going to die, and that's it. And she's like, "Well, I'm going to do what I can to help you out as best as possible." So she starts to come up with ideas, and then one idea is to write words on her web, and which is the best idea that she can do, because obviously humans can't understand spiders and they can't talk to animals, and that'll be a scary thing. So she writes terrific pig on her spider web, and then the owner and the farmhand, they notice that the web is saying terrific, and they get happy and they get excited, and they start realizing that this pig is really terrific, and that's the way she devises a plan to keep her friend from dying eventually. So they come up with different words to write on the thing, on the spider web, and the farmer, or the guy who owns the farm, he decides to make it kind of like a show attraction, where he starts bringing peoples by the boatload just to see the lettering on the spider web. And they keep looking at the pig, and they keep thinking that he's a marvelous pig and he's the greatest thing ever and everything, and it eventually saves his life because the farmer never says that he's going to fatten him up and eat him, but that's what the animals assume. So Charlotte literally makes him famous. And but the thing is, Charlotte, she eventually, her lifespan isn't too big and lengthy, so she's only able to help him out, and she's only able to be his friend for a certain amount of time, because eventually she's going to pass away. So before she dies, she needs to do something that that is for her, and they end up going into this contest, or this festival, and trying to get Wilbur to win first prize for best pig. And she's too old to go, but Wilbur doesn't understand it. So Wilbur ends up, telling her to please come along, this and this and that. And she's like, I can't really go, but she makes the effort, and she does go and does one last word for him. Eventually she dies, but she leaves something behind. So he goes, they end up finding that he left a sack. She left a sack of eggs for her offspring, and he decides to. She left it, and they're all trying. All the animals are trying to get that sack of eggs back to the farm so they can heat it up, and eventually it hatches. So she just watches them as they try their hardest to get this sack of eggs back to their home after the contest, or after the festival, until she finally dies and she disappears. And then Wilbur is able to bring the sack of eggs back until the next the next summer. The eggs hatch, and all these little babies are living in the farm and everything, and eventually they are ready to go, and they end up building up these little spider web air sacks, and they're whisked away by the wind. And Wilbur cries because he lost his best friend Charlotte, and he thought that he was going to have a bunch of best friends that he was going to be able to take care of, but unfortunately they all have to live their own lives. Eventually 3 of them end up staying, and the story, I guess, continues with them. They never made a sequel to the book, but they did do a sequel to the film, and it revolves around those 3 spiders that stick around the farm, and he's able to continue the story through there. The book was I remember reading, I remember seeing the movies and all that stuff. To read the book, it's very similar, it's very close to both films, the live action and the cartoon film. And I pretty much enjoyed it. It was a quick read. I think it was like over 100 and something pages. I'm used to reading big books. The latest book, which was it was like over 1,000 pages, 1,000 and something pages. But this was a really quick, easy read. And I just recommend it to all. Look at this guy right here. What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, hey, hey. Don't look at me with that face. I recommend it to all parents. If you read your kids' stories, why not read this to them? Bedtime story. It's a cute little story. Yeah, it revolves around best friend dying and all that stuff. But you know what? That's life. We die. Yeah, that's my Dave's Book Report. It's a definite read. Even if you adults, if you want to read something easy and you don't want to read something heavy, something light, if you're a beginner reader, hey, read it. It's a cute little story. I know a lot of people are, oh yeah, I just wanna watch the movie. Sometimes a visual aid isn't like enticing the mind. Okay, a good book will give you a wrinkle in the brain. I remember hearing that one time, the more you know. Ding, 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 ding. Every time you read a book, you get a wrinkle in your brain. Can you imagine how many wrinkles you have if you read? Ding, 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 ding. Alright, this has been Dave's Book Report. I'm Dave D. Saint. Stay tuned for further episodes of Dave's Corner. I'm going to be talking about Joker. I'm going to be talking about Comic-Con. And I'm just going to be talking about the upcoming news. Alright, so here's looking at you, kid. Keep it safe. And that's my best friend. Hey, you, stop picking your nose.